never write on the road. I used
Really?
to try it. It was insane. It's just different pieces of my personality. When I'm on the road, I'm in my public persona. That's ego. When I'm in my office by myself, that's how I get in touch with shadow. So I get to a panic point in every book, and the downside of that is that I get no sympathy from my husband or my friends, because I get in there, oh my God, this time I will never figure this out. I have backed myself into such a corner, and now they go, oh, I'm sure you'll figure it out, dear. And I'm going, no, I won't. I absolutely cannot cross this line. Then, of course, I do.
Well, writer's anxiety. Do you, I mean, I've noticed, for example, that one of the things on your website, that there's a police officer who mentions that you're really quite a good shot.
Yes.
And you go out. So is part of the writer's block technique to break it, to like go off and do something like that?
No, the technique, and there's only one, is just sit there. Just sit there till you figure it out. It is so uncomfortable, and it's so unpleasant, and I would rather do anything than sit there. T is for trespass. I had to sit there till I got it.
Is it sort of like being pregnant with a book?
It's worse. It's sort of like being in labor for 15
Well, that's what I meant,
months.
where you sort of feel like, you know, you got to push, you got to push, whatever
exactly.
it is, and where is this baby, and maybe it's breech, and
exactly.
on and on. So have you, I know you said you don't really, you're on you, but do you have in your, you don't really have a projected plan till we get to Z?
Unless one of the other 5 storylines I came up with for T, I can make work. But usually I find that if I can't make something work in one book, it ain't going to work anyplace else. The single exception is that B story that I pulled out of Ours for Ricochet.
Is that the only one, really?
As far as I know. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And unless I can have the insight about what the flaw is in some little notion. And I'm ever hopeful. I would like an easy book in here. S&P
well, it's so easy to save stuff, you know, in a computer society. So I had thought maybe there were other bits and pieces that you tucked away thinking, no, it's not working here, but down the road.
Well, part of it, you know, I keep a journal for each book I write, and the journal, like S is for Silence, that was 395 single-spaced pages on my computer. The book itself is 500 double-spaced manuscript pages. When I think back to things I've tucked into a journal, I can't find them again. They are almost lost in this sea of self-talk. So even if I wanted to revive something, often I can't find it.
Are you leaving your papers to anybody?
Yes, Boston University.
So theoretically, even when you and I are gone, there'll be people pouring madly through all your journals and doing stuff.
And what's worrying me is that my journals are so boring. But even when I go back and look at them, you can see a book emerge. From my fumblings, my trial and error, my hair tearing, my whining, my bursting into tears, you can watch a book emerge. And eventually somebody, and I hope I'll do it in an entertaining way, will go back and trace the evolution of any given book.
I think that'll probably be, you'll be somebody's PhD thesis down the road.
God forbid.
I know, it makes you feel like a monument or something.
I know.
Well, you've certainly been honored by all kinds of things. Not only are you a best-selling author, sold around the world in umpteen languages and all the rest, but you've had some serious critical acclaim.
Yes.
The Private Eyes, you've won Seamus Awards.
Yes.
Were you the first woman who won one?
I believe so.
I think
there might have been somebody else, but it was a woman writing as a man, and I can't remember who it was at this point. I got that first Seamus for B is for Burglar.
Right. And you know, I think it's just marvelous, the mark that you, and as you pointed out, Sarah and Marcia, a whole group of you in the 1980s, I think, kind of came together.
That's
women writing strong, private eye, or, you know, sort of more often male-dominated kinds of books, and making them work. And, you know, you got to feel really proud of that.
I do.
I know you're a grandma, and
I am.
you know all
I'm proud
the rest,
of that too.
The books are kind of also children, right? A legacy?
Yes, they are. They are. And I remember each for the struggle and for the triumph. They're each different, and they represent a series of challenges to myself.
So even though you kind of built yourself a box way back there with a 26-layer box, it's hard to really believe. Because of the way you've done it and the different kind of books you've written, you're not really suffering from, God, if I hadn't done this to myself, I could have written all these other books?
No, sometimes I say that, but it's not true. You know, I love what I'm doing. I just didn't think it would work this well. I thought
You know, the other thing you said that I've always, it'd be a nice note here to end on, that I've always kind of enjoyed. You said the first half of the alphabet till you got to M, people would be sort of rooting against you because they'd go, oh, too ambitious, you know, what's she thinking of?
Yes.
But when you made the turn, that people would start rooting for you. Are you conscious that that's true?
Yes, I am. The other thing I noticed just from the signing, last several signings, I'm getting male readers. Suddenly my lines, which used to be largely women, their husbands, their sons, their boyfriends are standing in line with them, and I cherish that.
You have always been a 50-50 reader at my store. Every event you have ever done for us,
good.
there have been at least as many, if not more men than women. I never think of you as a writer for women.
Thank you.
That's very interesting. In the same way that Tony Hillerman has always had women. I mean, I think there are gender-neutral writers, but I also think that the Poison Pen is a gender-neutral bookstore.
Yeah.
My staff is divided now, so I've never really gotten into this whole...
Well, you celebrate the mystery novel, wherever it comes from. You know, it isn't a question of male, female, it's who writes well.
That's really true. And do you know, over time we have really evolved from a mystery bookstore to a fiction bookstore. It's very hard to define. Yours are still PI novels, but if you really look at the world of crime fiction publishing today, it's extremely difficult to define what's a mystery and what isn't. And in fact, I now call it crime fiction.
Yes, that's good.
But I noticed in the that we really have become, I think, a fiction bookstore, and it's great that there's room for all of that.
I think so.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I love celebrating it all with you. And I thank all of you for joining us today.